Hello, and welcome to your Unit 4 lesson for I Do. Today, we will be writing a compare and contrast using multiple races response to make an essay. Move myself out of the way here. Our learning goal is to be able to say, I can write and compare and contrast text using appropriate signal words by the end of this lesson. There are several steps to this process. First, we need to gather information. So we'll get information from two different texts on the topic. We will also organize that information. So we're going to put that information into a graphic organizer. We will write body paragraphs using that graphic organizer. We will add a conclusion, we'll add an introduction, and then we'll proof it and turn it in. Let's start writing. Number 1, gather information. To do that, we need a focus question, and our focus question while reading these two articles is going to be, how does climate change affect different areas? So our first article here, entire towns have been burned to the ground. Thousands have been forced to flee their homes. Well, that sounds like important information. So I'm going to copy that directly. And as you can see here, I'm going to paste it right here onto this gather information text 1. Then I go back to the article and keep reading. The scale of the fires burning in the western U.S. right now are unprecedented. More than 3 million acres have burned in California alone. Wow, that's a lot. So we're going to go ahead and get that. It's a big piece of information. And back to the article. With 3 or 5 largest fires in state history still burning all at once, along with huge swaths of Oregon and Washington. Still, much of the West is only now entering what is typically the most active part of the region's fire season. The scientists, the fingerprints of global warming on these wildfires and so many other disasters, from the fires that scorched Australia to the hurricanes that have slammed the U.S., are clear. How climate change influences wildfires. This will be interesting. Though the scale of destruction is hard to fathom, climate scientists say we should not be surprised. It's shocking to see the impacts not scientifically surprising. Daniel Swain, a climate scientist at UCLA and the National Center for Atmospheric Research, told CNN on Tuesday. This is aligned with essentially every prediction for what could happen this year and the trends we're seeing over years and decades. Scientists have warned for years that fire seasons like this could come to pass, and that the more humans, I think this is going to be sort of important, that the more we humans heat up the planet, the more we are increasing the odds in favor of the hot, dry conditions conducive to fires. Okay, so that looks like a really good piece of information. I didn't get all of it. So copy and paste. And 3 is a pretty good number. 3 to 5 is a good number for our information. All right, so we have a second article. How will climate change affect us? And we're going to gather information from it as well. Okay, so I've already started that. It could cause freshwater shortages dramatically, alter our ability to produce food, and increase the number of deaths from floods and heat waves. So let's get a second piece of information. That came from right in here. So as the world warms, more water evaporates, leading to more moisture in the air. Okay. Seems important. All right. This means many areas will experience more intense rainfall, and in some places, snowfall. but the risk of drought in inland areas during hot summers will increase. More flooding is expected to storms rising sea levels, but there are likely to be very strong regional variations in patterns. All right. Poorer countries, which are least equipped to deal with rapid change, could suffer the most. Plant and animal extinctions are predicted as habitats change faster than species can adapt, and the World Health Organization, the WHO, has warned that the health of millions could be threatened by increases in malaria, waterborne diseases, and malnutrition. As more CO2 is released in the atmosphere, uptake of the gas by the ocean increases, causing the water to be more acidic. Okay, that sounds like a good piece of information to have. It's kind of a cause, part of the problem. We have a lot about like what the problem is, and this kind of tells us why the problem happens, so that's good. This could pose major problems for coral reefs. Global warming will cause further changes that likely to create further heating. This includes the release of large quantities of methane as frozen soil found mainly in high altitudes, melts. Responding to climate change will be one of the biggest challenges we face this century. All right, so now we have those three pieces of information as well. It is time to get organized. So we have our CNC chart here. Our first subject was wildfires. And our next subject was regional changes, right? So from here, all right, thousands of fleas forced their homes, more than 3 million acres have burned, and the more we humans heat the planet, the more the increases odds in favor of hot, dry conditions. Okay, so I'm going to put in my details here, millions left homes, millions of acres burn, hot air equals dry conditions. Right. And if I reread these, it could cause freshwater shortages, killing our ability to produce food. All right. Water shortages, unable to produce food. Looks like I'm gonna have to shrink the font on that to fit everything in, and that's okay. You can always change the font. More moisture in the air. More moisture in air equals bigger storms. And CO2 increases the heating. All right, so for differences, here we have land burning, right? And over here we have big rainfall. We also have, however, in both we have loss of water, drought, right? Hot air conditions, millions of people are affected, all right? No food. All right, that looks good. So in conclusion, what conclusion can we write here? Let's say climate change affects areas very differently. Some see drought, while others see more rainfall. All right. Now that we have that sort of organized, we can sort of see, all right, we got, these differences that we can contrast, and then we have all this stuff here in the middle that we can compare. Now it's going to be time to sort of write our essay. And when we do that, we're going to click this and open this link to this Unit 4, Lesson 4 right here. All right, and as you do this, I want you to go and skip heading and introduction and go straight to your first races response body paragraph. And here is your question. How are the two areas affected by climate change in the same way? So this is going to be a compare paragraph. And just like in lesson 3, where you use 2 pieces of evidence to cite, you're going to do that right here. Meanwhile, here, this is a how are they changed in a different way. And so here you're going to do a contrasting paragraph, right? And you're going to use this information to organize it. And then right here, you already have your evidence to cite, okay? And so you kind of have to go back and forth between the two to get your evidence and whatnot, right? When you're done, you're going to write, 2 or 3 sentences that conclude or summarize sort of what you said here, right? And you can use the conclusion you wrote here and just add a sentence to it, right? For the introduction, right? For the introduction, you're going to come back up here and you can literally use your recite answer, right? To get your thesis statement. So I'm going to copy this, or I'm not going to copy this. I'm going to look at this. How does climate change affect different areas, right? So I can say for my introduction, my thesis. Now, thesis statement is sort of your main idea, right? We take the question and we recite it into a statement, and then we add the answer, and that's your own idea, because the thesis statement is a statement or answer that is your own idea. So we're going to go, climate change is different depending on where you go because it affects the water in that region differently, right? And there you go. Perfect thesis statement. Fine. Last thing you do is going to put a heading on it. Remember, that's your title by your name, right? And there you go. You're done, and you can submit this once you've written those 2 races response paragraphs. Perfectly good. And then when you're done with all of that, right, you've written your essay, okay, you're done. And you can turn this in, and you can go back and do the Unit 4 lesson 4. At that time, it'll be the exit ticket. We're also done with this, and so you need to go and turn this in, your Ed puzzle in, and then also do your Unit 4 lesson 4 We Do assignments. All right. Happy writing.